Hi everyone, thanks for joining me again on this YouTube programme. Today we're going to be talking about Reggie. So Reggie is my son. He was born on the 9th of June 2021. I'll start off by talking about the pregnancy. For those of you that have watched my previous programme, I'd had 2 miscarriages before I got pregnant with Reggie. So getting pregnant with Reggie was fantastic. It was a blessing in disguise, really. We really needed it. I really needed it, and I had hope with this pregnancy. I felt completely different. I felt like this was going to be the one. This was going to be my time to bring a baby home from hospital. And before I actually get into it, I'm probably just going to say that I might get quite emotional when I talk about Reggie and what happened, because it's raw, and I haven't really explained it to a lot of people what happened, because a lot of people find it quite disturbing and people don't want to hear about it. But I want to share his story because it might just help somebody in the future. It might just help somebody understand, or just give somebody a little bit of hope. So anyway, got pregnant with Reggie. Found out I was pregnant in January 2021. We'd had a miscarriage in October 2020, so it was quite a surprise. I did actually stop testing this time because I really struggled with my mental health, and as I said in my previous episode, I had to have counselling and stuff, so I did stop testing. So we just decided to stop trying and just see what would happen. So yeah, when we found out I was pregnant in January, it was a bit of a shock, but it was definitely wanted, and yeah, I was really excited and happy to be pregnant. Got to about 8 weeks and everything was going really well. That's like the time where I had my second miscarriage, so it was really exciting when I got over that period. Then we got to obviously booking in with the midwives, which again was new because I'd not had a chance to do that. I got to have a 12-week scan. Again, absolutely amazing. I would say though that because I was very frightened of miscarriages, I booked lots and lots of reassurance scans to start with before I was in 12 weeks, just to make sure that the baby was okay. So I think we went at about 5 weeks and we could see that the baby was there. And then I think we went at about 8 weeks and we could hear the baby's heartbeat, and it was really exciting, and we got pictures and stuff like that. And then we went at 10 weeks and again we could see the baby getting bigger, and then I had my 12-week scan and it was just amazing. It was during COVID time, but my partner was able to come to the scan, so that was really nice. We both got to hear baby's heartbeat and we got to see the baby moving, and it was really exciting. So when after the 12-week scan, I decided that I was going to get excited. I mean, I already was excited, but I was thinking, this baby's going to come, like, I'm going to have this baby, I'm finally going to get to bring this baby home. So, really exciting, buying things for the baby. We did a gender reveal, just with close friends and family, and we found out we were having a baby boy, which was absolutely incredible because I've got quite a lot of girls in my family, and Will's got quite a lot of girls in his family. And it was going to be the first grandson for Will's mum. So that was really exciting. So when we found out we were having a little boy, everyone was really happy. They were jumping up and down, and I was jumping up and down. It was just really amazing. So I think we had that scan at about 15 weeks, and then from 15 weeks to my 20-week scan, I didn't have a scan because I didn't feel like we needed it. And I thought that obviously, you know, we'd been told we were having a baby boy, so we just needed to confirm it at the 20-week scan. So I was booked under Pinderfields in Wakefield for the pregnancy, and we went to our 20-week scan, and When we got there, the gentleman was like really, really talkative, and as when he was scanning us, he was, you know, showing us hands and feet and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden he just said to me, could you go to the toilet for me because your bladder's quite full? So I said, okay. So when I went to the toilet, I lost what I thought was my mucus plug. It was like loads of jelly on a tissue. So I just went back into the room and I just said, I've just lost loads of jelly on the tissue. And he said, right, that's what I was expecting. And he said, do you want to just come and sit on the bed? So he sat us down on the bed and he said, I'm really sorry to tell you this, but it looks like what you might have something called incompetent cervix. And what he explained to us was that so in some pregnancies, some women's cervix can't hold the full pregnancy, and some cervix do give way. There are different reasons why that can happen. It could be that you've had cancer in the past and your cervix, you've had to have treatment on your cervix. It could be that your cervix is just not strong enough. It could be from I don't know, having smears. I don't really know. There's quite a lot of things that can cause incompetent cervix. So he told us that the measurement of my cervix was 19 millimetres, which, knowing now, that would have really scared me. But because at the time I didn't have any knowledge whatsoever about incompetent cervix, anything, I went into it blindly, and so did my husband. So he said to me that I needed to be seen by the consultant that day. So we waited about an hour and a half to see the consultant, and she did an internal scan, and she told us that from the time that we'd been with the person that was doing the 20-week scan, my cervix had gone from 19 millimetres to 9 millimetres. And we were told by the consultant that if we didn't do anything that night, that baby could potentially be born at 20 weeks. So that was really hard to grasp. We cried a lot. We felt angry and mad that this was happening to us. We didn't understand what was going on. The consultant said to me that I had two options. She wanted to speak to a gentleman called Mr. Simpson at Leeds Hospital. Mr. Simpson, for anybody that doesn't know him, is a consultant at Leeds who specialises in stitches for women who have got incompetent cervix, and he is absolutely fantastic for anybody that wants to know about him. There is a group on Facebook called Incompetent Cervix, and he will help anybody in the UK. I mean, I think he's even helped people from different countries as well. They've come over and had the stitch put in by him. I'll go into that. I'll touch on that later on. But anyway, that's she wanted to speak to Nigel. She wanted to get an understanding of what she needed to do in my case, because she was quite honest with us from the start and said that she had never performed the surgery on a woman whose cervix was so weak and flimsy. So she didn't really give us much hope, to be honest. We sort of had to put our trust in her. And she came back into the room and said that we had two options. So the option would be that we could wait and see what would happen, or we could have something called a stitch. It was called an emergency Cleckridge stitch. So for anybody that doesn't know, sorry, what that is, basically your cervix obviously should be shut like that. But what we were told was that my cervix was funneling like that. So obviously baby's head was coming down, and my cervix was funneling, and then at the bottom it was also funneling. So it was like that. It was going like that. So the fluid was coming down from the baby's sac as well, and it was only a matter of time before the baby was born. So obviously we thought about what we needed to do, and we decided to go for the stitch. Why wouldn't you go for the stitch? You know, we was told that our baby could have been born that night, and we didn't want that. We knew that if baby was going to be born, probably around that time, baby wouldn't have survived. So we did everything possible to try and help the baby. So I had the stitch put in on the 29th of May, I believe it was, last year. And it went really, really well. The consultant said that it went really, really well. The baby was fine. They checked the baby afterwards. The risk was that she could have broke the waters and baby could have been born that night anyway. But what she was told to do by Mr. Simpson was to put a what's it called now? I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically what they put in when you I've had a C-section and obviously you can't wee. Anyway, so she was told to put that in, which pushed the bag of baby and the sack up, and then she could put the stitch round, and then obviously it's just a matter of popping the balloon and it came out. So the stitch was put round my cervix to like keep it shut, and I was told like it's basically like a belt, it keeps it shut for as long as possible. However, so we had the stitch put in on the Friday night. I stayed in the hospital on the Saturday and we were sent home on the Sunday. And I started with pains on the Thursday night, the following Thursday. And it felt like period pains to start with. It felt like maybe I'd got a bit of wind, that I'd eaten something that I shouldn't have had, and I was actually at my mother-in-law's because my husband had to continue working, and we was told afterwards that after the operation that I needed to be on bed rest. So I was staying at my mother-in-law's and she was sort of doing pretty much everything for me, and yeah, so the pain started and she's told me to just go to bed and just see if it would ease. So that's what I did. Just to mention as well, throughout the whole pregnancy with Reggie, I felt like I was losing fluid. It was like a yellowy fluid. But whenever I went to the midwife or the doctors, I was just told that it's just natural. Women do get extra fluid in the pregnancy. So because I'd never been pregnant before, I took that as liberal and just went with it and just thought, well, that must be the case then. So yeah, so we had the surgery, obviously put on bed rest. The surgery was okay. I had to have what's it called now? I had to have the needle in the back. I can't remember what it's called. But anyway, I had to have the needle in the back, so that was quite painful afterwards. They were quite harsh with the needle. She couldn't find where it needed to be, so I had like 3 different places where they tried to put it in, but anyway. So yeah, so I was on bed rest and started with the pains on the Thursday. I kept ringing and I was just told that, you know, you have had this surgery, the stitch can be irritable for a while, your body might try and start fighting it, which can then also cause you to be in pain. So probably just, well, there's no probably about it. I did just take what they said as literal and just continued being on bed rest. My mum would come and stay with us and just try and give me a bit of emotional support because it was hard. It was really hard. I wasn't allowed to do anything. So, yeah, so that was on the Thursday. And then on the Saturday morning, I lost loads of jelly again. And I was really, really worried. So I went into the hospital. At this point, I was nearly 22 weeks. I think I was a day before 22 weeks. Yes, I was a day before 22 weeks. Went to hospital and we saw the consultant who actually put the stitch in. She did a speculum and said that she thought that the stitch looked closed and everything looked fine to her. I wasn't offered a scan. I wasn't offered the the test to check for the hormones to see if the labour hormone had been released. I wasn't checked for that. I was just basically told that, yeah, everything was fine, the stitch was closed, baby's heartbeat was listened to, and that was it. I was sent on my way. And she also said to me as well that if baby decided to come the day after, which I would have been 22 weeks, then the Pinderfields Hospital would do everything possible to try and save my baby, which gave me a little bit of hope. It felt like we'd got to the stage where, you know, if baby did come, yes, it probably would have really struggled, but the baby might have survived. So that was on the Saturday, and then the other a couple of days were a bit blurry, to be honest. The Sunday and the Monday, I can't really remember what happened. The Tuesday, and I know I was in pain on the Sunday and the Monday. The Tuesday, the pain seemed to have dimmed down a little bit. It wasn't as bad as what it was, but don't get me wrong, I was still having like period pains all the way through from the Thursday. And then the Wednesday, the Tuesday night when I went to bed, I woke up around probably about 1 in the morning, and like just felt really, really strange. I was getting really bad pains. I didn't know what was going on. But I ended up being able to go back to sleep. So then I woke up at about 4 o'clock this time, and I was crippled in pain, and I went to the toilet, and I was just rocking on the toilet because I was in that much pain. I didn't know what was going on. And I remember my husband saying to me, what is the matter with you? And I started crying. I just said, I don't know, something just doesn't feel right. I don't feel right. So I went downstairs to see if I could get comfortable downstairs, and I couldn't. And I ended up ringing the hospital, and I was crying, and I was saying, something's not right, I need to come in. So that was at about probably about 6 o'clock. And they said to come in straight away. So we got into the car. I was feeling really sick. The car journey was really, really long. It felt like forever, but we got there in the end. And when we got there, we was told to go to the triage part. So we got into the triage part. They asked me, I was in a wheelchair, I could hardly move. They asked me to get up to do a urine sample. So I walked to the toilet to do a urine sample, had a wee, tried to do that. Came back and sat on the bed. And as soon as I sat on the bed, I could feel baby coming out. And I was screaming, this baby is coming out. It's coming. And they just kept saying to me, no, baby's not coming, try to calm down. There wasn't enough time to put me on the monitors to see if labour was started. They asked me to put my legs up in the air. They could see that baby was practically there. So at that point, it was quite a rush to get me to the labour ward. I was taken into one room, and then the consultant who put the stitch in came into that room, and then we were told that the bed wasn't right for that room. So then I was taken to another room, and as soon as I got into that room and sat on the bed and put my legs up in the strips like they asked me to do, Reggie's head popped out. So that was very difficult for my husband to see. I think we'll definitely have different experiences of this, because I was laid down and obviously Reggie came out of me. I didn't get to see what he looked like, but Will obviously saw everything. Sorry. I remember him coming out in the sack. And I remember my husband saying, oh my fucking God. And as soon as Reggie was born, I remember screaming, saying, please save him, please save him. I need him to live, I need him to live. And before the midwife even like looked at him and assessed him, she put her hand on my shoulder and she just said, "I'm really sorry, there's nothing we can do." And then at that stage, I was asked if I wanted to do skin to skin with Reggie, and I said yeah. And he was put on my chest, and they checked his heartbeat and said that he was breathing, and he was breathing on me, and he was trying to take a breath. Sorry. He was trying to take a breath, and we were just crying, and the first thing they wanted to do was to get some pictures of us. I'll try and put the picture on the screen. I don't know if I can actually do that, but I'll try once I've edited the programme. That picture will stay with me forever, because it was like the best day of my life, but also I knew that my baby was going to die, so it was like the worst day of my life as well. And I kept saying to them, why aren't you doing anything? Like, he's here, he's breathing. Like, please just try and save him. Just try and do something. So I know that they called for the paediatricians. Paediatric nurses. And now that I know, like, how it all works and stuff, they weren't even the right people that should have come. It should have been the neonatal nurses, and it should have been the neonatal consultants. But it wasn't even offered the opportunity. So they said to me when they came in the room, "Can we have a little look at him?" By this time, I think he'd been born maybe half an hour already. He'd been gasping for his breath. So I said, yeah, please, just try and save him. So my mum was already on her way at this point, because she knew that something wasn't right. My husband rang him and said, like, you need to get here, Candice's asking for you. And after he was born and he was looked at, the paediatricians said that they didn't feel there was anything that they could do. So they said, I mean, I didn't see him do anything, but they've said on their report that they put the mask over his face 3 times and there was no response from that. But to me, putting a mask on his face 3 times after half an hour of him already living is just not acceptable. There should have been a neonatal team there straight away when he was born, to look at him, to assess him, to see whether they could do anything for him. And we just didn't get that treatment. They knew I was coming in. They knew that I was probably in labour, given what my history was, and there was just nothing there when we got there. So there was a senior midwife, the one who put her hand on my shoulder and said that they couldn't do anything before they even assessed him. She stayed with us the whole day, and we asked if we could get my mother-in-law to come and meet Reggie as well. Obviously it was COVID time, but because of the situation and what was going to happen, they agreed for that to happen. So we FaceTimed my mother-in-law and I told her that he was here and that they wouldn't do anything for him. And I asked her if she wanted to come and meet him. Again, that phone call will stay with me forever. She just cried straight away. So she obviously drove over, and as soon as she got there, I could hear my mum in the corridors just crying and cuddling each other. And she came in. We'd obviously had cuddles with Reggie, and you know, it was really special. And she come in and she got Reggie. Um, and this was probably about 2.5 hours after he'd lived. He lived for 2.5 hours. And they kept coming and checking his heartbeat and saying, oh, he's still breathing, he's still breathing. And we kept saying, well, why aren't you doing anything for him then? Like, why are you just letting him die? And we just kept getting told there's nothing that we can do. I'm really sorry, his gestation. So we kept saying to him, what is the criteria to help him? We was told that one, he needed to be over a certain weight, so he needed to be over £1. They didn't actually weigh him until he passed away, and he was over £1. He was £1 1 ounce. We were told that he would need to fight for life, and our argument is if 2.5 hours isn't fighting for life, then God forbid what is. And they also said because his eyes were fused shut that they wouldn't help him. And again, I know that a lot of babies who have had their eyes fused shut have been helped and survived. So those excuses now, thinking back, are just ridiculous and poor. But yeah, so getting back to when Kendall, my mother-in-law, got there, I asked her if she wanted to have a cuddle with him. At this point, he was still breathing. He was moving his arms and legs about. You could see he was struggling. He was really, really struggling. You could see it. He was like gasping for air at this point. And she took him, and he had his last breaths in her arms. He had like a little smile on his face. It looked like he was smiling, and he took his last breaths in Kendall's arms. And that was really sad. Really, really sad. For us all. And she was just absolutely devastated that there was just no help there whatsoever. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to turn it off and just come back in a minute. So, as I said, it was going to be raw. I'm really sorry. I knew it would be. It's actually coming up to a year that we lost him. His birthday's tomorrow. So, yeah, it's quite an emotional week this week. So, yeah, so after he passed away, I had to go and have surgery to get the stitch taken out because he'd actually torn through the stitch. So he was put into a cold cot to preserve his body. And I went to have surgery and I came back. To be honest, the surgery was the worst time of my life, knowing that I was going through something and not getting anything out of it, not getting to take my baby home. So we had the surgery, and he was put into a cold cot, and at this stage my mum and Will's mum and Will just spent time with him and just got him out and cuddled him. Obviously he was weighed, he was measured, they were able to take pictures with him, of him, and then I got back and we told them that we wanted to stay for at least a couple of days just to get our head round what had gone on. We didn't want to leave him. We wanted to make arrangements to have a funeral for him, and we wanted to leave at the same time that he was leaving. where we lived at the time, there was a funeral directors co-op literally seconds away. We walked up the street and turned left and it was there. So we felt like we wanted him to go there because it felt like we were taking him home. Which to some people might sound a bit bizarre, but to us it was the right thing to do. So we spent 3 days with him in the hospital. Those days were the best days of my life. We got to just cuddle him whenever we wanted. We just got to take him out. I got to smell him, which that smell will stay with me forever. We got to have professional photos done. We got to do his hand and footprints. My mum was able to come every single day, which she did. She came every day without fail. She sat with us through every single day. She cuddled him, she kissed him. And yeah, those days were really, really special. If there's one thing that I could say good and positive about the hospital was that the aftercare of losing Reggie was amazing. Like, the staff were incredible. We didn't feel like we were getting pushed out. We were told that we could stay however long we wanted, which was really nice of them to do. So we made arrangements for the funeral directors to pick him up 3 days later, which was on the Friday. He was born on the Wednesday. So we spent Wednesday, Thursday and Friday, and then it was picked up like Friday evening time. And then we had to go home without our baby, which was the worst thing that I've ever had to do. We booked every single day to go see him and the funeral directors. We took close friends, family to meet him, and he preserved his body until the last person met him, which was my friend Alice, I think it was. She was the last person that I wanted to meet him, and after he met Alice, his body started to decay. So it felt like, it's really strange, but it felt like he were giving us signs that he was still there. Like when we went to go see him, there were times where he looked like he was smiling. There were times that he looked like he was laughing at us, as if saying, "You won't bloody crying, for God's sake." Yeah, it just felt like he was giving us signs that he was still there. And like we would randomly just see white feathers just like fall in front of us. And it was really nice, just nice to have signs that he were there. And then it came to his funeral. His funeral was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. I think for me, I stayed strong. My husband fell apart, so I had to be strong for him. Yeah, we. To be honest, I didn't really want anyone there because I didn't want the funeral to be taking place. I wanted to be able to bring the baby out. So there were people that I probably wanted there, but just didn't invite them because I just didn't want the funeral in the first place. So we had a cremation. We got to put a slideshow on of all his pictures, and we shared probably every last picture that we had of him. And we got to choose the music that we wanted at the funeral. It was a really special day. We just honoured him. And then afterwards we went back to my mother-in-law's and we released some balloons, and just wrote a message and just released some balloons and had some food. And yeah, it was really sad. Everyone just cried all day. So yeah, that's Reggie's story. I'm gonna leave it there because I want to talk about like the after side of Reggie's story, because we aren't happy and still not happy with the treatment that we got, and I will like go into detail about that, about like what we're doing and how we're moving forward with that. But I'm feeling a bit emotionally exhausted, to be honest, and I feel like I need to just gather my thoughts before I do any more videos. So thanks for joining me, and I'm probably sure that I've missed off information, but if I have missed off information, I'll do another video. But if anyone's got any questions or comments, then please feel free to comment below. Right, thank you for listening and taking the time to listen, and everybody take care. Bye bye.